Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, first I'd like to introduce Nora Jones. She's our budget manager. And again, I'm Jenna Morrison, the Community Corrections Director. Community Corrections has one fund and two divisions. One is residential treatment and counseling, the other is parole and probation supervision. I'll start with residential treatment and counseling, and it was previously called residential services. We did go through managing for results, so we are kind of starting to blend in some of our new names for our different programs. Our total budget is $8.6 million, of which $2.8 million comes from general fund support. Residential treatment and counseling is made up of our two buildings in Milwaukee, which is CSAP and work release. As the sheriff mentioned, we graduated 76 clients from our CSAP program, which doesn't sound like a lot. Our program it is designed to be a 6-month inpatient program and 6-month post treatment in the community. However, because of the opioid epidemic, what we're seeing is people spending probably more like 9 months in our facilities and then the additional 6 months. So 76 graduates is actually pretty good. Our work release program is a 4-month program where people who are struggling to be employed have an opportunity to live, gain employment, save some money, and then move on into hopefully clean and sober housing. The transition center opened last February, and the majority of the funding for the transition center actually comes from Justice Reinvestment dollars. One of the things we're very excited about is that we've served over, in our first year, almost 1,200 people, of which only 1% of those people has gone to prison. And that's the goal of the Justice Reinvestment dollars, is to keep people from going to prison. So we think we're being pretty successful there. As the sheriff also mentioned, community service has been moved into the residential treatment and counseling portion of our budget. And they've completed over 40,000 hours of community service. So we have a rather large fund balance, and we knew that last year, and we actually carried it into this year with the unknown amount of Justice Reinvestment dollars that we may or may not receive. We were able to, in this budget, we have no Justice Reinvestment dollars budgeted because they are grants that we're hoping this state continues. But this year we're able to continue to fund the Justice Reinvestment programs with our carryover.
And by way of reminder, the community corrections budget is in large part our best educated guess because so much of the money comes from the state. It's on a biennium basis, and this is the year of the new biennium, and so we don't know the amount yet. The state budget hasn't been determined. It's all being negotiated, and so next year we'll likely know the actual number, whereas this year we won't know probably till July when the legislature adjourns.
And so what we did was we budget always in the first biennium, or always in the first year of the biennium, we budget based on last year's state funding. So that's what we did this year. So our other program is parole and probation supervision, which is $7.6 million, of which 1.7 comes from general fund support. So we're going through a bit of a transition from 16-17 to 17-18. We're moving some of our programs around, again, based on our involvement with managing for results. So the transition center was previously under parole and probation supervision. One of the things we're very proud of is we've also started a Narcan program. Narcan is one of the things that anyone can deliver to somebody who is in opioid distress to bring them out of overdose. Thank you. And so what we've done is we've outfitted all of our parole and probation officers with Narcan, our residential services, as well as we've been handing out kits to people who are at risk of overdose at the transition center. And that was a partnership that we had with public health to get those kits. We also have victim services, which is part of our parole and probation program. Our victim services program is one person, and last year she served over 517 victims, helping them with 230 no-contact orders. Parole and probation, some of our carryover that we're going to be using is to upgrade our front intake center. If you've ever come to parole and probation, we basically have some chicken screen in front of our staff, and so we were able to, we actually are reusing some bulletproof windows that we got from a bank, and so that's going to cost a little bit of money, so we're putting some money towards that to keep our staff safe.
Big fence works real well.
And big fence, yeah.
What fence?
Big fence. So the rest is for our increased allocated costs. And we are also looking at some additional curriculum for our drug and alcohol treatment program. So we're putting some funding towards that. Again, as Chief Deputy mentioned, our funding level is currently unknown at this time. So we're moving forward on our best guess. We are moving towards, we went through managing for results last July. We thought it was an excellent experience, and we've developed our plan, and we're working on actually putting the numbers into our plan, because one of the things that came out for us was that we have a really, really hard time tracking data. The data that we use on a daily basis is in our DOC, Department of Corrections system, which is the system that Costco uses to track warehousing. So that's the system that we're using. And trying to get data out of that system is very difficult. So we're working with the county and with juvenile, with H3S, to hopefully find some unified data collection so that we can better actually show our outcome measures. Right now, we're dependent on sources that we don't have much control over. So overall, our department budget is $16.3 million. Like I said, we're one fund with two divisions. 28% of our budget comes from the general fund. The majority of our funding comes from the state, and our biggest expenditure is personnel. This doesn't match. This is not our.
That's not our slide.
It's not our slide.
This is somebody else's slide.
Oh, sure it is.
So, but you have the slide in front of you. So what I'm looking at
Oh,
isn't our
this-
slide,
this
but
is
you
our-
have the correct slide in front of you. And so these are the projects that facility has done, because in our building, some upgrades, I believe mostly funded through grants that they've received to upgrade some of the things just in our county building. Back to us? Yes. Okay. Yeah, so our revenue trends, our revenue is basically at current levels. We're hoping Justice Reinvestment is approved by the legislature that we can apply for. If we do apply for it, we've been told that we're going to have to come up with some more innovation to our current program to really work on directly impacting people going to prison. So we will be working with the district attorney's office, hopefully on that, so that we can make sure that we continue to get that funding. Our carryover is growing down, but that was expected. We knew we were going to have a large amount of carryover last year, and that was due in part to receiving our Justice Reinvestment dollars at least 1 year all at once. But we received 1 year's funding in December, and we didn't open until February, so that created a large amount of carryover. That, like I said, we were able to carry through into this year to make sure that we're funded. Our full-time staff has stayed at 106, and we had no policy level proposals. And we'll take questions.
Jeez,
Any questions?
someone's got to do it.
Commissioner Savas?
Chief Deputy Hoy, right? I want to say Captain Hoy, but it's Chief
Captain
Deputy.
Morrison, Chief Deputy Hoy.
Chief Deputy, okay. So last year we met and we talked a bit about recidivism in corrections and the frequent flyers, and I was trying to extrapolate out of that our success. I think since then, well, not since then, but you also opened the transition center. So do we have any stats or statistics of those? You set a pretty good number on those going through the transition center. So overall, how many people go through corrections but don't go through the transition center, or is it everyone funnels through the transition center now?
So not everyone goes through the transition center. Transition center tends to be more of a triage. It's a lot for people getting released from jail and people getting released from prison. So it is open to, we do have a lot of people, we have a lot of resources there, so a lot of people do, but it's not mandatory for everyone on community corrections to go through the transition center.
Okay, so what percentage of the 106 people deal with those going through, that are that's not a fair question. So what I'm trying to get at is how much effort do we suspect is spent, resources, whether it's staff or dollars, on those who are of the higher recidivism rate?
So we focus all of our programs on the highest risk offenders, regardless of which program we're talking about. Generally speaking, if you get to a low risk, we're going to put you on what we call case bank, and you're not going to receive a lot of services because evidence shows that if we provide too many services to people who are low risk, that means that they're people that already have a lot of community supports, they probably have a job, they have a place to live. If we intervene in their lives too much, we're actually going to do harm. And so we focus all of our programs, whether it's supervision, the use of the jail, the transition center, treatment services, all programs are focused on people who are high or medium risk.
It would seem as though that if it's effective, and I remember the rate for those who recidivate going through our jail and so forth was high, that, I won't say you put yourself out of business, but the number should be dropping as far as those who are repeat offenders, basically, who go through the cycle, right? And
Sure hope so.
yeah, and actually would free up jail beds, right, as well, ideally.
Well, I would say that community corrections does not take up the majority of the jail beds. The majority of the jail beds are used by the courts.
Back when I first started here in 2007,
Seven. Or eight.
2008, we used 3/4 of the Clackamas County Jail were community corrections clients. So there was virtually no room for anybody but our clients because everybody went to jail for everything. And over the years, we have evolved that process and really reduced the use of the jail for community corrections, for sanctions, things like that. Evidence has shown nationally that putting somebody in jail for a long period of time for a violation doesn't make the community safer, doesn't make them less likely to reoffend. So we use really low-level sanctions where appropriate to try to get somebody's attention, and we've really reduced the use of the jail. We've reduced the number of days that people are waiting to see their PO. We implemented a policy where they see their PO within a couple of days, where they used to wait the full, was it 10 or 14?
Yeah, 14.
14 days before they would actually even see their PO once they were arrested. So we've made a lot of efficiencies to try to be smarter about how we use that limited resource. And so hopefully, all that being said, hopefully we are reducing our recidivism rates. In terms of the transition center, it's too soon to tell because recidivism rates are generally measured over 3 years. We've just been open about 15 months. And at the transition center, we're seeing a whole group of people that we never gave services to before at all. People who are coming in and out of the jail, but they're not actually on formal supervision. We're providing we're providing services to a whole group of people that never went down to Main Street before.
And just to talk about that a little bit more, so this is something that community corrections is kind of taking the lead on, is being proactive. So that's something really foreign to us because we're parole and probation. So either you've committed a crime or you're coming out of prison. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to work with people who are involved in the criminal justice system, who may be getting out of jail, but who are not necessarily on supervision. So maybe providing some of the services that they would need if they were on supervision, but getting them beforehand. Housing, a drug and alcohol assessment, just sometimes basic needs. And hopefully, and I don't want to speak too much about this, but we're working on with the courts and with the jail, working on a pretrial program. So that's even enhancing our ability to work with people before they come into the formal community or criminal justice system.
And to just compliment Jenna and her staff, one of the things that I've been so impressed with is, as you heard Chris say, you don't have to be convicted of a crime to be receiving services. And I think for all of us, one of the big issues that we're struggling with right now is the homeless population. It is, I will just say, it is out of control in Portland, and what we're hoping to do is really touch those folks that are homeless so that they can work on either finding them housing or a job or mental health and plugging them into the services. And so I believe it's that one little touch each and every time. So I have to say it's been the first time in my career where I'll see folks that have been released from jail walking back to the transition center to get services. Usually it's only a one way, and so it's really been nice to see that, and it also gives me the ability of coming across people that are homeless, that I can plug them up in there to services, that they can help you work on a job. They have tremendous connections with employers that are willing to hire them, and housing abilities, and supporting veterans. So nice job, Jen.
Eric.
Yeah, Captain Morrison, I'd have to say that transition center and Chief Roberts is probably one of the smartest, best programs and investments we ever made in this county. Because you've got to have someplace to go after you're out of jail. And most of these guys just turn around and call their buddy, and away they go to get money and jobs, or they don't get jobs, they just go back into crime. Good program,
Thank you.
very well run. Love the statistics. The only thing I had about the report that you indicated where you had performance indicators, I noticed that the projected numbers, the percentages that you have in here are really not higher. In some cases are lower. And so my question is, I guess my encouragement is to set a little bit higher bar and reach for it. If you don't hit it, at least you've got it. But if you put a lower bar or equal to, then that's too easy to say, well, yeah, we hit the goal.
And I will say that because we are working towards managing for results, we didn't put a ton of we didn't put a lot of effort into these for next year because we are moving towards our managing for results report and using those results. Those results are much more beefy and much more
A little more
meaningful,
robustness
yes.
with those coming out.
So these performance measures, a lot of them were given to us by the state, whereas through the management for results process, the staff, and through that whole process, as you know, we were able to develop what, like Jenna said, some really meaningful results that we're hoping to be able to track. Like she mentioned earlier, we really struggle with our data because we're using a system from 1989 that the state requires us to use. And it just is very difficult. It's very cumbersome. And so we're trying to, without creating a lot of extra work, doing double data entry, that kind of thing, tracking things that are meaningful to our new performance measures.
Yeah. No, I thought many of these were very good, so
Thank you.
excellent job.
Okay, it'd be nice when you can transition from an abacus and a slide rule to
Yeah, that would be
Yes,
great.
totally. We have the green screens. It's a mess.
That's right.
It's unbelievable.
Great, thanks. Commissioner Humberson.
Just a non-budget related question, but do the people who go through your transition center self-select into the program, or are they mandated into that program?
So both. So in some ways, we have two probation officers that work inside the jail, and so they're working at doing assessments and case planning for their ultimate release. And then every morning we have somebody go over and kind of collect them and kind of harness them into the transition center. But we are also open to our residential services program, so the clients that are receiving services there come to the transition center, as well as our parole and probation clients.
We use a lot of enticement
Coffee.
at the transition center, coffee, bus pass, things like that to try to get people to come and engage in our services.
The coffee and donuts goes a long way.
Just sometimes.
Are you statistically tracking how you do between those two populations, those that are mandated in and those that are self-selecting in? It might be a piece of data that, if you're not doing it, it might be an interesting piece of data.
Yeah, I don't think we are at this time, no.
Thank you.
Commission Chair Bernard.
I'd say just put a zip line on the top and zip them down. So my question is, how's city council?
Great. Thank you.
He's an elected official now, so,
Oh, where?
Salem.
city of Salem.
Oh, very good.
That's it, thanks.
All right, any more questions or comments?
Thank you.
Being none, we want to thank the Sheriff Office and the Community Corrections for their good work in the community and helping keeping us safe.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.